Thanks for all being here today. I'm Mary Vandervoort, President and CEO of Heartland's Conservancy. I'm honored today to kick off the presentation regarding the effort to establish Cahokia Mound's Mississippian Culture National Historical Park. Before we get started, I wanted to have a big thank you to the staff here at Cahokia Mound State Historic Site for helping us set this up and run it today, and also a big thanks to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, who hosts the site here, for making accommodations for us today. Also, thank you to the Heartlands and Mounds team members that are here. Ed Weilbacher, who many of you know could not be here today. He is somewhere on a riverboat in Europe, lounging around. Laura Lyon, co-lead of the Mounds Project. Suzanne Cutter-Seibert is our Mounds Project Outreach and Tribal Engagement Coordinator, as well as the other supporting staff here today, Sarah Vogt, Kim O'Brien, Landon Brooks, Shelley Beeman, and Janet Buchanan. A little background on this project. The effort started back in 2011 with Dr. Brian Anderson, who is the former head of the Illinois Natural History Survey. Dr. Anderson approached Heartland's Conservancy about leading a collaborative effort to study the feasibility of the mounds as a unit of the National Park Service, and also to look at how to preserve mounds as sacred sites. That effort began in 2013 with an inclusive engagement process that included 12 Native American tribes and nations, archaeologists, and community leaders at the local, state, and regional levels. Many of you are in the room today, and thank you. We also held 13 public meetings, over 40 information tables and presentations, and gathered thousands of letters of support from individuals from throughout the region. In 2014, we completed that feasibility study using the guiding criteria of the National Park Service. The study found that Cahokia is under-designated and does in fact meet all the criteria of the National Park Service designation and is indeed nationally significant. The study also found that Cahokia Mounds, together with key mound groups, meet all the criteria of throughout the St. Louis region, uniquely and holistically represent the Mississippian culture. In fact, they represent the most significant and unsurpassed example of the time period. The 6 sites deemed most important by the archaeologist in the study include sites in East St. Louis, Dupo, Illinois, Mitchell, Illinois, Lebanon, Illinois, and North St. Louis and South St. Louis City. As a result, the study recommends that the Cahokia Mounds and thematically connected mound sites should be elevated to a non-contiguous national historical park, and that only the land from willing sellers and donors would be included in that park. The park should be created based on a collaborative management model with partners such as the state of Illinois working together with the National Park Service. In addition to the preservation of sacred sites, the feasibility study also anticipates the designation would result in increased tourism and economic activity for the Metro East and St. Louis region. After the study was complete in 2014, we began the process of seeking the National Park Service designation. We worked for several years to build support for this effort. We have received support from 4 Native American nations and tribes, the Illinois General Assembly twice, 3 Illinois governors, including the current governor, J.B. Pritzker, 3 counties of the Metro East, Madison, St. Clair, and Monroe counties, 15 municipalities and townships, and 9 archaeology groups. The groundswell of support has resulted in a bi-state, bipartisan effort. We will continue to support this effort and hope others will express support as well with their legislators and the Natural Resources Committee in both the House and the Senate. We will have some resources available on our website for people who would like to do that on their own at www.heartlandsconservancy.org. So I have several others in the room today who would like to talk a little bit about the project from their perspective. So first I'm going to introduce a representative from the state of Illinois to come up and talk about the state's efforts in this. Rachel? Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rachel Torbert, and I'm the Deputy Director at the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and I'm here with Ryan Pren, our Chief of Parks, and Vaughn Mandy, who is our Director of Land Management, and we're pleased to be here today on behalf of Director Colleen Callahan. It's no secret that Cahokia Mounds is one of Illinois' most treasured historic sites. The remains of the most sophisticated prehistoric native civilization north of Mexico, Cahokia Mounds State Historic Site is home to 2,200 acres of invaluable Mississippian culture and history. The site and its accompanying interpretive center here provide Illinoisans and out-of-state residents alike with the opportunity to not only learn more about how our native inhabitants interacted and lived, but interacted with other civilizations here in the Midwest. As a steward of the state's natural and historic resources, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources is proud to manage this site, providing insight into prehistoric culture for more than 300,000 visitors annually. That's why, given the state's enormous cultural significance and popularity, this administration is looking forward to working with our federal partners toward a national park designation. And we're especially hopeful for what it might mean for Cahokia Mounds and the services offered here. Already, however, we are working toward better serving visitors by adding 3 full-time staff this year and interpreters. Additionally, effective August 16th, the site will welcome Lori Belknap as the new superintendent. Lori's been here at Cahokia Mounds for 12 years, and we're excited to work with her in her new capacity. Finally, as the Illinois Department of Natural Resources continues to make much-needed improvements here at the site, the department is excited to once again open the site to visitors 7 days a week in the near future. And more importantly, we're anxious to expand the connections between Cahokia Mounds, the Illinois State Museum, and other Mississippian cultures sites like Dixon Mounds to provide greater context and knowledge of the state's native inhabitants to our residents and our out-of-state visitors alike. So once again, thank you for allowing us to be here today, and we look forward to working with the National Park Service.
Now I'll ask Kurt Prenzler, the Madison County Board Chair, to say a few words.
Thank you, Mary, and I want to thank everyone for coming out today. When my relatives from Germany visit the United States, they come to visit me, and they also like to visit the Cahokia Mounds. So that I think that a lot of folks who live around here, we take it for granted. We don't recognize what an architectural treasure we have here and how people from all over the world really recognize that. And so I want to thank Congressman Bost and others who have been working to make this a national site. It truly is worthy of that. Thank you.
And then next is Mitch Fair from the city of Collinsville.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak on this important issue to Collinsville. I'm here as Mayor Miller is out of town and cannot attend. He sends his regrets. He really wanted to be here. First, we would like to thank Representative Bost as well as the Heartlands Conservancy for their leadership role in championing this effort to elevate the Cahokia Mounds to national park status. We would also like to thank Governor Pritzker for his formal support for this project, as well as Senator Durbin for introducing legislation in the Senate. The City of Collinsville is very excited about Representative Bost's legislation that will elevate Cahokia Mounds as a national park. As Cahokia Mounds is within the city limits of Collinsville, we have a direct vested interest in its success in establishing Cahokia Mounds as national park, establishes the importance of the site to the entire country, as well as cementing the future of Cahokia Mounds for generations to come. Cahokia Mounds already functions as an international tourist attraction due to its recognition by the United Nations as a World Heritage Site, based on its rich archaeological resources and status as the premier example of Native American Mississippian culture. Elevating Cahokia Mounds to national park status will only increase its exposure to visitors both domestically and internationally. Elevating Cahokia Mounds to national park status makes not only cultural sense but economic sense. Based on the 2014 Economic Impact Report prepared by Development Strategies, it is estimated that Cahokia Mounds contributes an economic impact to Illinois of $19.6 million per year with $6.1 million in household earnings, supporting 179 jobs in the state. To give this some perspective, these jobs are the equivalent of 25 small businesses to the state of Illinois. And again, those are 2014 numbers. Establishing Cahokia Mounds as a national park is not only a benefit for the residents of Collinsville, but for the entire region, as well as the entire state of Illinois. We are very excited as the progress of this effort that started in earnest in 2014 and informally a little bit before that, and look forward to Cahokia Mounds formally being established as the Cahokia Mounds Mississippian Culture National Historic Park. Thank you.
It can take many years to establish a national park, So we're very grateful to celebrate this very first milestone of having the bill introduced. So for that, I'll turn it over to Representative Bost to talk about this bill.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. And I just want to thank you for joining us here today. First off, I'd like to thank all the shareholders. You don't realize how many people have been involved with trying to get this rolling. Thank you to the local center, and thank you to the IDNR and everybody that's involved. So today we're kind of at a crossroads of history. We're at the center of what used to be America's history's largest civilization. Cahokia, America's first city, was built by the Mississippians people 1,000 years ago. Cahokia was the capital of the culture and stretched from the Midwest all the way to southeastern United States. What remains today of a city that was once 10,000 to 20,000 people strong is now 2,200 acres in this site and the 70 earth mounds where their buildings once stood. We're lucky to have the archaeological treasures right here in our own backyards. For years, school groups, families, history buffs have visited Cahokia to learn all about this history. But outside of the Midwest, many people never heard of Cahokia. So many Americans have no idea what this land means to us. That's why I've introduced H.R. 3824, a bill to make Cahokia Mounds a national park. The park would include mounds in Madison, St. Clair, and Monroe counties in Illinois, as well as Sugarloaf Mound in St. Louis. Cahokia is already a National Historic Landmark, a World Heritage Site, and is on the National Register of Historic Places. National Park status is the next logical step. This status would help raise national profile of Cahokia and preserve this amazing piece of history for years to come, for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, as it should be. Our efforts are both bipartisan and bicameral. In the House, my bill was co-sponsored by Congressman Lacy Clay, Rodney Davis, and John Shimkus. Senator Durbin is also introducing a companion bill in the Senate. So I believe that we have the momentum where we can build off of this and move forward. Someone asked a while ago, how soon do you think this could happen? Well, let me tell you that when we use the term, well, it will take an act of Congress, believe me, I have learned what that really means, okay? But I believe, since it is bipartisan, bicameral, and even in a time when partisanship rears its head on every bill that we come up with, I believe this is one that can move forward in a way that all groups involved can be proud and make sure that we move forward with it. So hopefully Speaker Pelosi and Majority Leader agree and will add the legislation to the floor calendar for a vote as soon as possible. I want to thank you again. I thank again local leaders. Folks, I know that if you're part of it, you understand everything that they do around here and how they've worked for years to maintain this site, to understand its history, to understand how important it is to not only this region, but to this nation and to history to be recognized throughout the world. And I want to thank them for what they do every day. I mean, we're having this press conference today to kind of kick this off, but the reality is they've been working on this for a very, very long time. And I think they deserve a round of applause. So if we could just give them that. So once again, thank you to the Heartland Conservative and the great folks here at Cahokia Mounds for the hard work they do. And I want to thank you all for being here. I'm proud to be part of this effort at a time whenever a lot of things seem that they don't come well out of Washington, or things are always being argued over. It's really good to have something positive like this to be going on. And thank you for being here. Look forward to it.
So now we'll take any questions that anyone may have.
I was wondering how rare it is for a national park to be established these days.
It is the question is how rare it is for a national park status to be brought up. Most of them have already been, and it's very difficult to do. When you work with the Department of Interior, they're not wanting to take on any new projects, but this project in itself has the historical value that it comes to a higher level. It should have been done well before this time, but it's not easy, but we're going to get it done.
What's the cost of the federal government?
The cost of the federal government is very minimal. We haven't had the cost study analysis done, but other than the fact of absorbing this site, the overhead is the amount will be minimal in comparison.
Will there be any precautionary measures to keep this site protected? Like we've seen other national parks kind of lose
That's the importance of the national park status.
Okay.
Once you reach that status, those protections automatically go into place. Now understand this, because we have so many mounds around, if you'll notice when it was read what was going on, those that are in our control or IDNR control and everything like that, there will be no private land grab. Okay, we want to be very sure, we made sure that language was in there. But the preserving of the existing sites is vitally important, and this status does do that protection. Other questions? Thank you all very much. We move forward with the language.
Thank you everyone for being here. There are refreshments behind you. If you would like to sign a letter of support to the Natural Resources Committee, we have them at the table over here, and we will send them off on your behalf if you want to sign them. Thank you very much.
And make the move there.